Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Carey and this is Carey Digital. So a few weeks ago, I sat down and I was just talking about some of the hard truths about entrepreneurship and some of the challenges with, like building a business from small. So back in 2020, I decided that, hey, I'm going to share more behind the scenes of me building a business, or at that time I called it building my digital empire, which is what I'm really on the mission of, right? And that's something personal for me because I enjoy what I do, but I am also very passionate about learning about how I can better, serve my audience, grow my business, and eventually achieve the life of financial freedom and flexibility. So, I sat down and I started that series because I know there are other entrepreneurs like you who want someone like me to share my own journey, right? So I'm in the process of, growing my business from small, but I also have a 9-to-5. And so in that case, there's just so much dynamics and the challenges that comes with it. But one of the challenges that I initially had had learned to overcome was putting myself out there. So I literally struggled with putting myself out there. And what do I mean by that? So when I just started out in, like building a business, or even just started out with side hustling, I was so fearful of being in front of the camera. So like you see me here, like in front of the camera and everything, I wasn't this comfortable. I had so many awkward moments. I had so many moments where I thought being on camera was not for me. But outside of being on camera, I just did not like the idea of me being in front of anyone or just showing up online at all, right? Sounds a bit weird now, especially being that I talk about it a lot and share that story. But I do share that with entrepreneurs because I know how limiting it can be to not put yourself out there. And let's break down putting yourself out there and that kind of thing. So putting yourself out there means if you have a business or you're just like any professional at all, you want to ensure that you are top of mind for your audience and for clients generally, or just people. You want to be top of mind. You want persons to know about you. You want them to know who you are, what you do, and also to know what you know, right? So if you think about some of your favorite probably influencers or even thought leaders, you know about them because they literally position themselves for you to know about them. So think about the Terry Carrolls of the world, think about the Rush Cams of the world, think about even badass Buzz of the world. Think about them, right? So they might seem, right, like, oh my gosh, they just have it, they're on top of their game, but they all started somewhere, right? And we might perceive that, hey, maybe they're just extroverted and it's natural for them, but they too quite possibly have their own struggles and challenges with putting themselves out there, right? So that's one. So maybe you're thinking that, hey, I am more introverted, like I am, but you also struggle with the fact that you don't have it all together. And that's one of the things I also want to talk about there, where you might feel like, hey, I'm not quite where I want to be, so it makes no sense for me to position myself out there. Or, you might also be thinking that, who really wants to know what I know? Maybe what I know is so trivial, it's so basic. Who is going to literally sit down and, listen to me? Or maybe you'll be thinking like, who is going to even believe anything that I say or apply anything that I share, right? So I too also had those same thoughts and those challenges in my mindset. And as I said, I had to remove those limits and the limiting thoughts behind all of that. And so, as I said, it was a big struggle for me with putting myself out there, right? And so putting myself out there looked like, one, sharing my knowledge, sharing my thoughts, sharing my opinions, sharing my personal story and how I overcame them. And so if you have been following me online, you'll realize I talk a lot about fears and breaking through comfort zones and putting yourself out there and building your online presence and showing up in front of your audience, because I know that when I was like literally starting out, I was just so comfortable with just writing a blog post and just going back in my shell. Or maybe I would like post a little one, you know, like a graphic on social media and go back in my shell. But eventually I really got tired of being in that zone of comfort. And I realized that being in that zone of comfort wasn't working for me. So while it worked for a while, it wasn't a long term. And so because I want to grow, right? Because I want to grow, because I know there's more for me, I literally challenge myself to, hey, how about doing things differently this way? So maybe for you, you are okay with just posting a photo of yourself on social media and that's it. But maybe now is the time for you to start stepping in front of the camera. Or maybe for you right now, you're comfortable with just having a group of friends and you sharing your knowledge. And that's working for you right now because you're getting word of mouth referrals and that kind of thing. But how about maybe you need to start sharing it with a wider audience? Why not turn on that camera probably when you're talking to your friends or sharing the knowledge with your friends, if they're okay with it, of course, and start sharing more of who you are and what you know and what you do, right? So I, just decided to sit down and talk about this a bit because I know it can be a really big struggle for you as an entrepreneur to put yourself out there, not to mention if you are introverted. So when I decided to start my YouTube channel back in 2020, one of the things that I wanted for myself then was to share my knowledge, right? And at the time, the focus is mainly just Canva and helping entrepreneurs to build their online presence, right? And so I started there from that point of, hey, this is what I know and this is what I'm going to share. And so even though I had my fears about being on camera, I literally, said to myself, I made a bet on myself and said, hey, you don't know everything about it. You still have your fears, but still push through those fears. And that's the same mindset I wanted to have. So even if you have the fears and you have the doubts and you have the insecurities, don't get comfortable with them. Challenge yourself to step outside, step regardless of those limiting thoughts, those fears, those doubts, those insecurities, right? And make a bet on yourself. I also did a recent Instagram post on, taking a bet on yourself and how I took a bet on myself and how it has really helped me. Because the truth is, when you place a bet on yourself, you can never lose, right? So even though you might feel like, hey, I am losing, I don't have it all together, I might show up on camera and I fumble over my words and I have awkward moments and maybe no one is viewing your post or no one is clicking, it doesn't matter. Place that bet on yourself, step out there and go for what you want. Because for me, ultimately right now, even with just being online and, showing up on YouTube, sure, I am serving my audience. Sure, I want the best of my audience. But every time I sit in front of this camera and decide to share my knowledge and share my personal story, I'm not doing it just for my audience. I'm doing it for me as well, and so every time I, overcome that hurdle of, stepping in front of the camera or sitting down in front of the camera, I applaud myself because I'm like, hey, I placed a bet on myself and I am growing. So I see how I have literally grown from my first YouTube video to even now, right? So, in the beginning stages, I used to sweat a lot and I still do sometimes because I'm just so nervous and anxious. And even sometimes I'd make a mistake and I'd be like, oh my God, why did I say that word? And I start beating up myself. But at the same time, I also learned that I am learning, I am growing, I am stepping outside of my comfort zone. And, the best thing I can do is to give myself grace. It's to better myself and to give myself grace. So I'm looking down on the Instagram post that I shared like a few weeks ago, and on this post I'm just going to share what I said here. And I said, my biggest bet is taking a chance on myself, and I've had no regrets. Despite the fears, doubts, and uncertainties, one thing is sure is that I am going to try. And it's not because it's easy, but because I know there's more. And that's very important to me. I know that regardless of how I feel and regardless of the fears, I know that there's more on the other side of fear. And I used to always say this to like friends, and I have this strong self-belief or belief that I am fearful because it's important to me. I am fearful because there's something on the other side that I'm supposed to get, and I'm really worried if I'm going to achieve or fail, right? So you use that fear as a motivation and not as a distractor, right? So let me continue. I said, there's more on the other side of playing it safe and casually doing things the same way. The truth is, sometimes you'll make a bet and win, and other times you'll feel like you've lost when truly all you've done is to gain a new experience and learn a lesson on how to navigate. So that's a big thing as well, right? So as I mentioned earlier, I was just okay with writing a blog post, sharing an article, make a one post on Instagram, go back in my shell, and that literally was me playing it safe. It was so comfortable for me to do all of that, but again, it just felt too comfortable. I wasn't growing, and it was not enough for me, especially being that I know that I am made for more, right? And so let me continue, right? When I decided to step outside of the norm of being behind the scenes to step into the new world of putting myself out there on camera, YouTube at that, where millions of people can see my video, hello, and shamelessly sharing more of what I do and know with the world, I was terrified. So even though I might not seem like I'm terrified, sometimes I really am, right? And sometimes when I come off the camera, I'll be like, oh my God, that wasn't the best video. Oh, I should have posted. And I have all of those moments behind the scenes sometimes. But again, it's about pushing myself regardless of the self-critique and the fears. And then I continue. Sometimes I still am. That is about being terrified. But I've gained so much from the newness that comes with me stepping outside of my comfort zone. And here's what I've learned, guys. I don't have to be perfect. And I'm going to break down some of the lessons I've learned. I don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. As an entrepreneur, as an introvert, or however you define yourself, you don't have to be perfect. When you're putting yourself out there, you don't have to be perfect. You know what you need to do? You need to be you. You need to be you. And so for me, when I decided to step in front of the camera, here's what I decided to be me. I love to share knowledge. I love to share what I know with others. So before I started coming on YouTube and sharing videos and sitting in front of the camera, I spent a lot of time and hours helping friends with Canva, helping friends to set up their social media, helping friends to design graphics, helping friends to create their website, giving them tips, giving them strategies on how to build their business online, how to show up online, how to monetize their skills. So those are the things I was doing before I came on camera. And so the only difference now is that you are getting like a one-on-one with me. So normally it would be my friends. No, I'm exposing myself to a wider audience, right? And so it's the same for you. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to claim that you're an expert. What you need to know is to share what you know really well. And I'm going to dive into that in a few. And here's another lesson. It's okay to fail and learn from it. And like I said, see, I fumbled just now, right? And so like I said, you will fail. It's a part of life. You won't always win. You will have moments where you struggle and you fumble over your words and you mess up. But that's totally okay, right? So just learn from it, always assess and keep moving forward. A few weeks ago, I did a live on Instagram, and that was my first live, like in terms of sharing my knowledge, and I literally felt like it was the worst. The way how I felt like it was the worst after the live ended, I deleted it. But I downloaded it first and then I deleted that video because I was like, no one can see me like fumbling and rambling and all like that. So I deleted it, right? So that was one area in which I think I failed, or believe I failed. But what I did after was that I reached out to persons who I knew watched the live and asked them, hey, What did you take away from this? What is it that you think I could have improved? And I got really good feedback on things I could have improved. I talked about that as well in a previous video. So, those are the things you have to be mindful of. It's okay to fail, but you can always assess, learn from it, and keep moving forward. Here's another lesson. People are waiting on you to share what you know so that they too can make that leap. When you hold back yourself inadvertently, you're holding back someone else who wants to learn from you. And I strongly believe this. When you hold back yourself, you are holding back someone who can literally learn from you. So for me, you can imagine if I was just keeping all the Canva knowledge to myself and all the knowledge I have about building online presence to myself. Literally, persons would be learning how to do new things in Canva or how to utilize Canva, right? And so because I challenged myself to step from behind the scenes and in front of the camera, more persons are learning from me. More persons are understanding how they can better utilize Canva and get value for their money and position themselves online and reach their audience and target their audience, right? So, if there's something that don't just sit on it. Don't just dwell on the fact that, oh, I'm so fearful, I'm not good at camera. Remove those limits. If that's something you're struggling with, pray about it. Ask God to just show you how you can break free from the limits. Ask God to help you to push beyond the barriers and keep moving. So that's something. And if you even want to, reach out to me and ask me how I did it, feel free to. If you want me to guide you on, little tips and, with just some tips and advice on how to start moving, feel free to reach out to me, right? I'm very accessible, and one of the things I'm passionate about, like I've been sharing, is that I like to help and I like to share my knowledge, right? So, and this is my last point, which is it's okay not to know everything, but you should know your thing and share that thing with the world. So this is a big part of even, on the topic of feeling like you have to show up as an expert. You don't have to show up as an expert. You just need to show up sharing what you know really well. I spoke about that as well in terms of on my content on building your online presence as a business owner. So, I really decided to sit down and share this because one, I see far too many entrepreneurs, brilliant entrepreneurs, or just brilliant people who are sitting on their potential. I see far too many people sitting and holding back themselves. And so I know what that was like and what that looked like for me and how it was limiting me and my growth. And so I say, you know what? I need to talk about this. I need to share my own struggles, where I'm coming from, where I am now, and how you can make that step forward in your own life, right? And how I wrapped up this, post I made on Instagram, it was, if there's anything I tell you to bet on yourself. And I'm saying the same thing here. Do what you've always wanted to do. Start the business, pivot the business, hire the assistant, get the help, hire the coach, invest in yourself, invest in your business, make that transition, trust the process, because you never lose when you bet on yourself. So to you, my entrepreneur, to you, my badass friend, to you, my introverted friend, to you who, clicked on this video and has reached this far in the video, bet on yourself, position yourself online, share what you know, be confident about it, be okay with awkward moments, be okay with failing, and guess what? Show up online, being yourself, the authentic self, and the authentic you. Alright, so look out for more of this series or more videos in this series. If you want more videos like this, subscribe to my channel, Carey Digital. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.